Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more month than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident. Welcome back to second part of the series with Andrew and what we've been discussing in regards to the human condition. One of the things I wanted to get into, Andrew, was you've attained university degrees in speech, communications, religious studies, and Eastern philosophy. How much did your education mold you into the person that you are today?
That's a good question. Thank you for asking that, Dwight. Everybody. Thank you for watching again. Let's see. I have to say this. I went to school to be a forest ranger. I think I changed my major like 7 times when I was in school. I could have gone and gotten a few more degrees in the philosophy arena if I wanted to, just by staying in a couple more years. So for me, it was. I think it did play a large part. The philosophy end. I thought about becoming a philosophy major and doing that. I was really good at it. I don't know why. Some people are innately capable of doing different things, but I always kind of aced my philosophy classes, whether it be metaphysics or Eastern philosophy, whatever it may be. And I just found it so interesting. So that passion of mine, played out in my education, but it's just been part of my life. I mean, if you see my book collection, it's just endless books like that. So, I've become a better person, all the different philosophy, theologies throughout the world. I believe that, for me, it was like, because of my reading disabilities, I listen to a lot of books. And when you get good at listening to books, you can listen at higher and higher speeds. And I would get books from the Library for the Blind and Handicapped, and they give you a special machine where you can literally turn up the speed to where it's like you're fast forwarding your cassette player. And I thought I was reading fast, just as a little side note, some of my blind friends, oh my God, man, you have no idea the speed at which they can listen to something and hear it. It's like the highest, like if you were literally had your cassette on fast forward, put that up like 5 levels, they can listen to a book at that speed and give you 100% comprehension.
Wow.
I mean, it's just incredible because their hearing is so advanced. I was just blown away. I mean, if you wanted to have a research group of blind people that were able to plow through, audio material and give you summations, I mean, that's what people need to do. There's so many unbelievable people there. Anyway, I believe that what I found, what I always felt like when I was a kid, through these meetings with God and through other experiences I had, that God kept showing me that there was, it's not like it's, how do I say this, like living rational positive action, right? That's what the way is. It's about integrating virtue and best practices into your life, things that you do all the time. And while that sounds simple, it was like, to get there is so complicated because you have to plow through pretty much all of human knowledge to understand that that's kind of what we're all trying to do, or the first couple laws within the step 4 of the way. Treating people as equals, that we're all equal, treating people as you would want to be treated, respecting life, the purpose of life, all of these fundamental ideas. I just felt like there was a theme. Like, I don't know, I was studying so much Indian philosophy. I don't know if you've ever studied Hinduism, but it's like every writer in Hinduism has got to write his own stuff. And if you ever read it, it's like the most convoluted language sometimes that you could ever imagine. Like, they try to stuff every idea that they can sometimes in a paragraph so that you're like the
10,000 words or less.
Yeah, well, no, and it seems like it's more confusing than it needs to be.
Yeah.
It seems like sometimes I think philosophers or theologists or whatever, they want to make it seem like they're the only ones that can know, and they have to help you lowly people understand. And what God was showing me is like, no, it's the complete opposite. Those people are missing the whole point of the whole faith, is that they're trying to make it seem like they're the ones, right? Like in the Catholic Church, it's always the priests and the Pope, and you must listen to them, and everybody's kneeling and everything else. It's like, for me, it was like God was saying to me, it's like this, let me say, this making yourself seem lesser in front of this organization or these people is the problem. The whole idea of God and our faiths is to make you more, is to make you stronger and better and as a human being. And it seems like in a lot of our faiths over the thousands of years that we've had them, it's become something else. You know, it's become, they know, you must come to us to be saved and to know. And God's telling me that we're all directly connected to God. This is one of the laws in there. You can't, there's no organization between you and God. Like right now, God created everything in all of us. There's no separation. You don't need some other outside force to know God. I've talked with enough people all over the world that even like when you talk to Christians and Muslims and Hindus, this feeling inside of the people where when they explain the feeling like their connection to God and the influence of that, it's all the same. There's no difference. It's like you can say everybody knows Christ then, or everybody knows God. The differences come in when we look at the books and the 2,000 years worth of history or more in our religions. And a lot of times I feel like they miss the whole point, like the message. I always try to qualify myself because I sometimes feel like if I say things to my friends all the time, they're like, dude, you just got to say all these things out in the world. It may get me in trouble, but it's like, I had one vision when I was younger, when I was studying all the different faiths. Okay, it's like Abraham is the founder of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, right? So I don't know if people know this, but if you're Christian, you might have a hard time with Islam. But when I started studying Islam, it blew me away. Like the first couple chapters, there's one in there about Abraham. There's one in there about Mary, the virgin birth and everything. It was like in Islam, in the book. So just don't think that they're so separated. Those are the Abrahamic religions. But it all started with Abraham, and God bless all the Jewish people and everything. But this idea that you've been persecuted throughout time and you keep asking why has been prevalent throughout a lot of your writings that I've read. And to me, it's because you missed the whole point. It's like God keeps saying to me, it's like the Jewish people, Abraham was supposed to bring God to the world. Okay, it wasn't, the problem is that he kept seeing his people and his group as separate from all of humanity. Instead of, it was, here is the message of God for everybody, and here's how you get to heaven, and here is the one faith. Instead, it was like, no, only the Jewish people are the saved one. Only the Jewish people are the ones. So then they closed in among themselves instead of becoming this group of people that were going to bring God to the world. If you study Judaism, I mean, it's like only some of them will go. There's a very small number, and it's like, that is so wrong, because it's like Abraham didn't understand big numbers for one. And back then in that day, in that time frame, his understanding of humanity was not as broad as it is now. He didn't see everybody as being the same and equals. And so, for me, it's like when we look at all of our faiths and all of our division, everybody keeps saying, oh, we're so divided. We're not divided. Everybody keeps telling us that, and we can see it. We're all fighting. It's because our leaders are making us do this. We're not divided. Everybody wants the same things. We all want to fill the void within with real answers. We all want to find our special people. We all want to have a good life, and we'd like to have a good life for everybody. We all want a thriving world and all these other things, right? It's all the same. We all want to stop the liars and the cheats and everything else. We want to have functional government, great businesses, and non-polluting, and all this stuff. It's all the same. I don't care who you talk to. There's not one person. The problem is that we're being told that this is not true, right? No, we're being told that the election was stolen by these people. No, it was stolen by these people. No, we've been told that this pollution is good, or they're not polluting, or this or that. You know what I mean? It's all a bunch of lies and misinformation.
All driven by money, though.
Well, that's what it is. That's why I said this idea of wealth, power, and fame being the goal of life, just to get back to that for a second, is not true. I know I never finished that thought. because if you look at the lives of those people, they're not automatically happy and they know all the answers and all the rest. The true goal of life is the way that I describe it in the book, is what a loving mother wants for her child. They want them to be healthy and happy, have great relationships, to find something they're truly passionate about and love, ideally doing that as the way to support themselves, and all these other aspects of what makes up a rich and wonderful life. That's what we all want. Nobody, I mean, if you look at all the lists of people, like what you want in life, happiness is at the top of the list. If you had people have done these studies too, where it's like, would you rather be happy and have great relationships, or would you rather just have a lot of money and be alone and hateful? Nobody chooses having money and be hateful. You know what I'm saying? So the problem is that, when you have great wealth, especially if it's family wealth, generation by generation, and some of these families, I've talked to them, and it's sad. And again, it's like, it always makes me sad. I feel like these people need the most help because they could be the most help for the world. It's like they feel like they are the ones that are given some right to rule over people. This idea in Europe where it's the blood of kings, and who's a duchess and a duke is still
that's a great conversation to divert to the royals.
Let's go.
It's that's going to piss some people off, because I have had people tell me off about it, including my own family, that worship people that are royalty. I don't care what country you're in. You should not worship in today's day and age somebody that was part of a bloodline that considered themselves to be superior to you because they were bullies. They were great at being bullies. They were able to incite other people to follow them, to instill violence, hatred, whatever the case may be, on others, and make everybody think that they were less than that person that's up in the castle. And now today's day and age, we still have societies like, my British friends that listen, because I have quite a few that do. I'm not trying to offend you, but when is enough? When are you going to stop worshiping somebody that's, segregated and subdued your population for hundreds, maybe thousands of years? When are you going to stop allowing that? And whether you agree with me or not, Andrew, I have a big problem with people that worship the royals.
Well, let me say this.
They're human beings. They're the human conditioner, right? We've talked about that.
Yeah. And that's, I think, one of the biggest problems we have in society is that we have the sickness of superiority, right? That infects groups. And it's not only that it infects the group that thinks they're superior, it's the other people that think they're superior, right? Like if you worship a king, first of all, worship, just the real idea of worship is only for God. If you're worshiping people or a statue or whatever, that is clearly not what is intended. I think the idea of, in the States, we have, celebrities, and that's all over the world. I think a lot of times in Europe and whatnot, the royals have become part of the celebrity cast in a way. But it's more dangerous because this idea of blood. First of all, especially in Europe, anybody who thinks that the bloodlines of the royals are somehow better than people who have bred with a lot of different people are wrong, because clearly, if you marry your sister and your cousins and you've done that for hundreds of years, your genes are not very good. Okay, you've got hemophilia and all sorts of other diseases and whatnot. Of course, yeah. So genetically, this worshiping of some bloodline is a joke, because it's absolutely nowhere near superior. The best bloodlines of the world are the mixed, the most mixed ones, because you get all the best from everybody.
Just like dogs, it's going to make people laugh, but your Heinz 57 dogs. I have a friend of mine, she's a veterinarian. My dog's a Heinz 57. She said she'll live 15 to 18 years. Purebred dogs, 7-8 years. So there you go.
I don't know what Heinz 57 means, but
Heinz 57 means a bunch of different breeds. Oh, okay. Like my dog's 4 different breeds.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the idea of you taking the best genes every time people or dogs or whatever are born. But it's also, I think, on a psychological level, it's wrong, because it's like, for some reason, this guy, like you said, 200 years ago, they were a duchess or a duke or something, and now their kids are whatever. It's like keeping track of this in a society where that's no longer true is going to hurt you in your development of equality and freedom, because people are still hiring people based on their bloodlines. Oh, he was a duchess, we got to hire him or her.
Privilege, they get continue to get through life because of privilege, because of the past, which is should not be indicative of the future.
No, and it's also this idea of kings. I talk about all the different government forms in the book. And, you know, kingship or queenship, whatever you want to be, the royal family idea is totally flawed, because it's like the idea of philosopher kings in Eastern philosophy. There's this idea, Lao Tzu and Master Kong, which we know as Confucius, used to travel around. He would talk all these different ways of trying to help the people. And if you read them, they're literally talking to leaders and like begging them to just see their people as people, you know, like, don't you want to care for your people instead of just partying all the time, sir? These people need your help. And they're like, no, screw those people. You know, this idea of ruling over people or serving them. You know what I mean? It's like you can see that if all of us, all the people, we want people in positions of power to help us, to serve us, right? We don't want them to just fill their houses with gold while our children are starving, or send us to war for some stupid petty reason. And because you can't learn how to cooperate or realize that every country should have a place in the world and we need to help them become better countries and better people and all the rest of it, instead of just endlessly fighting with everybody. So for me, it's one of these things where it's like the whole world just needs a chiropractic adjustment. It's like we have all the pieces.
Reset.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is why this has happened right now. And I believe this is why, you don't know me, but I've been delayed my whole life. I've been hit by cars and I've been laid up where I thought I'd never walk again. You know, 5, 7, 8 years, 10 years of my life gone. So many trials and tribulations. And it's like, I always was like pissed off. Like, why is this such a delay? Why am I being delayed? And it kind of goes back to why are there so much trauma in the world? Why are kids having all these horrible experiences? It's because none of this is real, in a sense. They tell you this life is an illusion. It's temporary. It's only you as a created being, right, are from the moment of your creation in heaven to the point where you're put in this body and then move to another body and another one, whether it's in heaven or another place, another time. It's all one life, right? So the moment you're created, you got to think of yourself in this life just going on. It's not going to end at this point. It's like you're going to sleep and you're going to awaken in another life. When I was shown this in this one vision, it was like I kept waking up in my dream. Okay, I'm in my dream, and I was killed. So many different ways. I mean, one time I was a soldier. I was literally going through, I know it was in Vietnam, and I turned this corner and I saw myself get shot, and I rose above and I saw myself die. And I'm like, and I didn't wake up. I went to heaven. I swam through this water. I'm swimming up and up. I've been a lifeguard in my life too. And I always have this vision where I almost drown and I'm swimming up and to the light, and I come through and I'm in heaven. I'm in my place. Like I have this wonderful water in front of this place I live, and all these pathways going to all these different cool places. And I'm like, oh, I get it. It's like all of this life that we lived, it's like a dream. Like, do you remember the dream you had 5 years ago? You know what I mean? On April 3rd, you know, it's like, no, I don't really. It's kind of like that when you're living your true life in heaven. It's like all these past lives or this past life that you had that got you there. It's a vague memory. So just to give you an idea too, I don't tangent, but when I was a kid, I was bullied a lot, like I said. And there was this one kid up the street who was probably 5 years or more older than me, but he was a horrible guy. And I didn't see him for a while. And then I saw him one day and he was missing an arm. And he came up to me and I was a little scared. He was like, hey man, no. I just want to say I'm sorry. I'm like, what? He goes, I'm sorry for all the horror I brought on you. And, you know, I was such a horrible person. I'm like, you lost your arm. He's like, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I'm like, he starts telling me that he knew he was a bully. It was horrible. This woke him up. And I believe a lot of times this horror in our lives are for us to overcome these things, right? Nature, our biology, this whole situation isn't heaven. This is a training ground. And if you look at the human conditions, we talked about that. I go through this in the book, but if you really want to understand how we're set up, like, you know, the game of life, that child's game of life, okay? You have a box, you open it up, it's got a game board, it's got pieces, it's got rules, right? Dice and everything else. That whole idea of the game of life, the real one that we're playing, are covered in the human conditions. There's two different types. There's the universal ones that are like gravity, day and night, entropy. And then there's the human-centric ones that are more like, we're born ignorant, we have to fuel ourselves, it takes so long for us to develop, and all these other characteristics. You add up all these human conditions together, the universal as well as the human-centric, and you get a clear picture. They really force us into three things. One is self-development. Then we have self-control and societal development, meaning you literally have to develop yourself from a little baby all the way to a human, but you have to control this. You have to control yourself. You can't just do everything you want. And then the whole idea of creating a better society. None of us are an island unto ourselves. We do much better when we're cooperating and working with each other. So we have the human conditions of us trying to make ourselves into the best people we can be through self-controlled self-development and creating a better society. And that whole idea has been prevalent throughout all of human history. And these human conditions kind of set up the whole game board. So you can see that, we're here because this life is a training ground that's preparing us for a greater reality. And if we just decipher this code, we can then kind of figure out what we're supposed to be here to do, how we can master these different aspects of being human. And that's what I put into this book. I found so many little pieces of the puzzle. Let me just say this too. It all kind of came together in 2015 on April 3rd. It was actually Good Friday. I was sorting out the beginning ending of this much grander work. It's the 4 pillars of self, society, universe, and God. And I kept finding my references to, this is key to true success. This is key to true success. So I put all these keys together. And there was 7 of them, put them together in the right order. And it was seriously like a secret code got unlocked. And on that day, I wrote for 3 days straight without much sleep or doing anything else. I learned what obsession really was. And then I let go of my clients. I have a drug testing business, kind of let that run on autopilot, and just wrote this, took all that knowledge that I collected over those 30 years, not all of it, a lot of it, and put it into this book, because now I could see how it all kind of fit together in a way that you can understand. I think the whole point of what we're trying to do sometimes is make the complex simple, and for me, it was too complicated. All of life, there's so much. Over these 30 years, I had a couple of moments where I almost lost my mind. Especially if you're reading all these philosophers and psychologists and whatnot, and it seems like they are literally making it more complicated than it needed to be. I swear, it seems like some writers, God bless Deepak and all the rest of them, but they seem to write because they want to write. And it's not like they're really trying to just focus in on this and give you the knowledge so you can go on and live your life. They'd rather you sit around and read his 50 books and then the next 50, and you know what I mean?
But how many people in your life have you heard them tell you a story that took an hour and they could have done it in 3-4 minutes?
Exactly. How many books have you read where it's like, I got so sick of it where
it could have been 150 pages and it would have been perfect, and yet it's 700 pages.
Exactly. and it's like somebody, and you could literally, the formula too, it's a formula. Story, 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 point. Story, 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 point. And literally, like, you read these the success books, like the coaches and whatnot. There's what I got to is just find the virtue. Just like, you can literally scroll through and be like, okay, he's talking about dedication right here. Okay, dedication is a virtue. That's all you need to know. And his implementation plan for virtue is,
well, it's back to what you said about speeding the book up, right? I've done it. I've tried that. It's something I got to develop though, because I'm a huge Audible fan, so that I can get through more material, because so many of the books, like you said, the point's there, but there's too many stories leading up to the point. Here's the point. Here's something to back the point, or to start out before I tell you the point. Have a beginning, middle, end. Keep it concise. Next. Keep it concise. Next. And they just go on and on and on. And there's no, I find that even with podcasting though, there's no specific flow. I've stopped listening to podcasts because of that. There's no, just the sake of having a podcast, there should be a point to it.
Yeah.
There should be a reason for it. And there should be, you should be educating and teaching and making sure, and it shouldn't be just about you saying you have a podcast, or I was a guest
or a book.
Podcast.
I wrote a book. Everybody's like, every business person now has to write their own book. I'm like, no, I'm like the complete opposite. Unless you have something really original to share, don't write a book. There's too many out there, and all you're going to do is pollute the knowledge base and make the good books harder for people to find. That may not sound right. I know some people are like, everybody needs a book. It's like a business card nowadays. And I'm like, no, maybe, but if you want to just have it yourself.
It depends. I agree with what you said. And, mostly.
Maybe a little harsh.
But no, it's not necessarily harsh, because I have a friend that does believe in that and sells that principle of it being a business card. But he offers a fantastic service in regards to helping people get their message out. What I don't agree though is that some people just do it for that business card. right?
Yeah.
That presence. But if it's done in the right way, a book is a business card. But what it is a business card for me is a business card to what my personal brand and what I stand for. So encompassing, for example, Give a Heck, the podcast, the book, everything about what I've been doing is involving one principle, giving a heck about others. And it's got a theme to it, I guess. It's got a flow. Whereas some people, again, they're just writing the book and it's just, oh, look at me. Here's my name. Come hire me so I can make money. It's not about serving others. My whole system is about serving others. And my book is a calling card to support my personal brand.
Yeah, well, that's meaning.
Right?
That's meaningful then.
Yeah, of course.
I think that's the when I delve into this whole idea, like when you pick a topic, and there's so many, to be a truly holistic human being, why it took me 30 years is because there's so many rabbit holes. I mean, just the idea of health. Oh my God, I can't even tell you how much I had to study. I had to go back to study basically how our cells work in biology, the basics, because you can't start from these diet books. They're all a joke. Every single diet book out there that tells you to eat one thing and not this and all of that, what they should be showing you is how to eat properly and just manage the size of your meals, because your body doesn't stop needing those nutritional aspects. Like, it's like, don't eat any protein. It's like, well,
you need to understand the macros. You need to understand what your body requires.
Yeah, and how to put it all together. So,
and our society's gotten to a point where it's all driven by fast. Well, everything fast is way too high in carbs.
Well, it's also driven by taste.
Yeah, and so sugar. I was going to say that. So it's based on carbs, but we live in a society that uses so many dyes. They use so many preservatives, additives, and things that actually trigger in our mindset to make us like, do you know the story of Doritos? Right?
Yeah.
You never can eat one. Well, that's one of the additives they have in there that triggers in your brain so that you want to eat more than one.
Sure.
So they've used that as part of their advertising. So you want to eat that Dorito and over again, yet it's an ingredient which is outlawed over in Europe, but not North America, which is pathetic, right? It's called monosodium glutamate, right? People need to understand what you're putting into your body because it affects your
that's
mindset.
where I get down to the basics, and I don't call any junk food. First of all, it's just junk food. It's not food. So when we get down to health aspects and how to fuel yourself with air, water, light, food, and information, there are literally some best practices that you can implement that when you eat, what you eat. We are in a time, especially in America and some other more developed countries, where you can literally eat the best food in the entire world. That isn't grown right near you. I mean, you can have all the best types of grains and vegetables, whatever it may be. I have a whole system, and I'm going to be doing videos on this. It's in the second book on how to integrate all of these superfoods into your life and to create a plan to where, because our bodies, while we're different, we're not so different. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's like, oh, it's all complicated. And I was there with you until I figured it out, and I went, no, we're making it way more complicated than it needs to be. And I almost think some people are making it complicated because they want to make money off of it. They don't really want to solve your problem or teach you the truth. They just want to sell a book about how you could just eat meat.
Why is the biggest industry on the planet today breakfast?
Well, let's talk about the evolution of food for a second.
It's advertising. It's all about money. Yet there's people that have proven that it's not the most important meal of the day. But yet that industry is so powerful. Those people that have proven that it's not the most important meal of the day get squashed.
Right. Well, let me say this. It's not so much that you need to eat cereal or whatever. If you want to talk to the specifics of food, within 30 minutes to 45 minutes when you awaken, because you've been fasting for 8 hours-ish, you should be drinking some water and eating something. The best thing you can eat when you first wake up is something like an apple, where it's light. It's got some natural sugars in it, get your body going. You don't want to eat grains or anything really heavy. You certainly don't want to be eating meat in the morning. But again, there's certain best practices because you have to look at not only how it feeds your body and all the different pieces of the nutrition you need, but when you eat it so it stimulates or relaxes you or whatever as you're doing it. Because sugars at the right times in the morning, natural sugars can be good, right? If you eat them too late, it could be a little hard to sleep or whatnot. So we as a human race, in hydrating ourselves, there's not like 15 competing ways to hydrate yourself. You know what I mean? You need a certain amount of water during the day to be healthy. It's just the way that it is. Not only in the morning are you rehydrating yourself because of the lack of water you're drinking, but you want to drink a little more so that it passes out and cleans out your body for what it's been doing at night. I don't know if people out there all know this, but when you sleep, your body's really active doing things it doesn't doing during the day. It cleans out your brain, fixes your memories, helps clean out your body and whatnot. So in the morning, when you're drinking, you want to drink enough, maybe half gallon, a little less than half gallon or so in the first couple hours to be able to wash out all of this work that your body did at night. These kind of best practices, with your mind, your body, your spirit, your emotions, if you are raised this way from a kid, it's not such a big deal to do these things because now it's just how you do it. It's like, wow, this kid wakes up and he eats an apple and he's drinking all this water and he's doing all this stuff. Yeah, he's been doing that since he's been 2 years old. It's not a big deal for him. But if you look at what that kid will be like when he's older compared to somebody who didn't, it's a drastic change. I mean, people look at me and they're like, wow, dude, you look so young and whatever. And it's like, I'm 55 years old. I didn't discover some of these things until I was in my 30s and whatnot, but it still made a big difference. And I just look back at and be like, God, why didn't I know this when I was a teen or when I was a kid? Why wasn't I just taught this way? And just get to the evolution of food. I think humanity's gone through so many different, and obviously it depends on where you are in the world. Some of us are still very behind, but like the Western world, we went through these different levels to where we have so much food now. If you look at like the 1900s, before the 1900s, we didn't have a way to keep food to, keep it fresh. It was either you got it and you ate it or it went bad. And then we had preservatives, we had all, canned food, all these different ways to start to make different kinds of food. And we went a little crazy with it. You can see like Doritos and, whatever.
The amount of sodium they put in things to preserve.
Yeah, they had no idea.
Within canned food.
Yeah,
and really,
but they had no idea when they first started.
Because there's no nutritional value left. You're eating a shell.
Right, but they didn't know that back then. Back then it was like, hey, our kids are dying of starvation. I'll eat some canned food, and now they're not dying. Right, it's still better. And if you look at the 1900s and before that, it was tough. So then we kind of went a little crazy between 1900s, after World War I, after World War II, especially. I mean, the food industry just took off. Then we had anything you can imagine. I mean, a Twinkie, they say, will not, degrade in 20 years. It's like, I think it's like scientists sometimes are like kids. They just want to share everything. They don't really think of it like DDT. Oh, the greatest thing in the world. And then we're like, no, that was the most horrible.
Killing off the duck population and bird population because of the weakened eggs. But
exactly. Asbestos.
Since we're on this topic, I got a specific question I want to ask.
Sure.
You're a martial artist, yogi, and many call a health and fitness fanatic. What was the biggest driver in your life to embrace fitness so much, and why a martial artist and yogi? On the surface, they seem so different, yet they both require discipline. So I can mention
I can martial
say it again
arts,
if you want.
No, I got it.
Okay.
Martial arts, I think, started when I was young. My dad got me into it because I was bullied so much and wanted me to defend myself instead of being, broken and bloodied all the time. But that martial arts kind of got me into the Eastern philosophy end because it's very tied up into that. Yogi, when they talk about yogi, just in that description too, the people that wrote those, I guess when you do yoga, you're called a yogi. I'm also a philosopher, so they kind of put those two things together. But yoga saved me, honestly. I mean, I did it when I was younger, but after I was hit by a car in 1999, I was sitting at a stoplight. I've been hit by cars 4 or 5 times now, crossing a stoplight, whatever. Most of the time, I'm just sitting there. I was riding my bike one time, I got hit. So I'm standing at a stoplight, I get rear-ended 60 miles an hour from behind. It ruins my back, jams my hip up into my body, and ruptured discs and whatnot. Couldn't walk or stand for over 5 years. And yoga, when I first started, when I was that hurt, I could barely do it. But after a while, what you need to think about yoga is just think of it as like active warm-up stretching type of thing. It's strength, it's balance, it's a flexibility, it's all these different aspects in one. And on my website, you can find, I have a yoga, a routine that I created. You can find a place to get your own yoga cards that have all the different moves in them, so you can make your own yogi routine, so you can go through it. But the whole idea is like when you're creating your best day, I call it the, your daily way. You're mapping out your day. You got to do certain things during this day, and part of it is caring for your body. One of the best things you can do in the morning and at night is yoga. And as far as like creating different moves, and if you look at the yoga program that I created that's on the website, you can download it. It starts off with you laying on your stomach and really just kind of stretching out your back. It's really made to warm your body up, fix your back, as well as to make you a strong person. So you start on the ground and then you eventually stand up. So the idea of physical fitness, when I studied it, it's like people look at like, oh, the goal. I remember this one guy, okay, I was talking about physical fitness. He goes, hey, you're no Atlas. I'm like, is your standard of being physical fitness like be somebody like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Atlas, was some huge muscled guy? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, do you know Arnold Schwarzenegger, how many operations he's had on his shoulders and whatnot? He's taking steroids. Is that what you really want? That's not healthy. See, I talk about longevity too. So what you want to do when you're training your body in your life is to realize it's got to last the whole time, right? You don't want to be 50 years old and be totally broken. You want to be 70, 80, 90, still, jogging, running up the mountains and whatnot. And you can find people in the world that are totally healthy like that. And if you look at their lifestyles and what they do and how they do it, if you integrate some of those best practices into your life, you can have that same type of physicality when you're older. So for me, the idea of having the healthy body is the one that's strong, but it can transverse this whole life. You know what I mean? You can run really fast in one movement. You can stretch. You can do all these different things. You're flexible. You're strong. You're fast. There's a lot of different ways to train the body. I have it actually on one of these sheets here. And the mind. And if you integrate all of them, that's how you're going to become the fittest person you can be. Here. So like when you're training your body, just to go through, you're training to be strong, fast, enduring, balanced, graceful, flexible, agile, precise, intense, coordinated, controlled, tough, dexterous, and ambidextrous. So, and again, those are the different types of ways that you need to train yourself to be a totally holistic, healthy person. So, I met people that can't use their left hand for anything. So I start teaching them how to do different things with their left hand. Just open doors, do different things. Try to, because it actually stimulates your brain if you do these things too. So there's a lot of ways that we can train our bodies in every single situation. One of the keys in the book, especially in the second book, is really utilizing your transitional moments. And I talk about time in this book and how to manage and master time. A transitional moment is when you, like we're having this meeting right now, right? When I go from this meeting and I'm going to go to my office, in between here and there is a moment for you to use to center yourself. You can do deep knee bends as you're walking. You can do kicks. You can do so many different things instead of just walking and not moving. Most people I talk to, especially when I deal with CEOs, a lot of CEOs, especially the older ones, they grew up in a time where taking care of your body and your health and all that kind of stuff wasn't really a focus of life. Anybody's born in the 30s and 40s and whatnot. But they do want it. And once you show them how to care for themselves better, I swear within like 2 or 3 weeks, it's like their attitude changes, their mood changes because they're feeling better. And when you're feeling better, you're happier. And when you're happier, you're going to treat people better and all the rest of it. So like you said, it all affects each other. So for me, it was like to become a healthy person was like a pursuit since I was a kid. I remember at 13 years old, I stopped eating junk food. My family, like you said, Doritos and Pringles and all this stuff in the cupboard. And I learned that somebody said that there's a difference between food. And there's junk food and there's healthy food. And I decided at 13 I wasn't going to eat junk food anymore. And then I started researching what it meant to be healthy. And I think what pissed me off the most is that there's so much contrary information out there. If you go to a doctor, right, they're going to give you pills, especially in the Western medicine. If you go to a physical trainer that works at a gym, he's going to want you to lift weights and whatnot. What I found is there's a way to care for your body, your health, your medical side, as well as your physical side, and it all kind of works together. Like what you eat, how you breathe, how you fuel yourself, how you deal with information, how you deal with your mind, your meditation, all the rest of these keys. If you integrate them, you can create a better and better self, but also a better life. I talk about it, the art of life, right? You can have we look at buildings, right? You can see a square, squat, gray building. It looks ugly. Then you can see a building that's a work of art that takes your breath away. The same thing is with humanity, right? This idea of you becoming the best person you can be isn't just sitting in your car, going to work, coming home, eating, going to sleep, going car, never moving, never. This is the life taking over your life. You know what I mean? You're being programmed.
Yeah, but that sedentary lifestyle has gripped our society terribly.
Well, it's because of slavery and serfdom. I mean, if you look at our schools, I mean, what are you taught? Sit down, don't move, don't, it's like we're not human. Go to work, sit down, shut up, don't think about your problems at home. This is when I go into a company, I'm dealing with trying to fix the company. 99% of the problems have to do with personalities. You know what I'm saying? It's like these guys won't talk to each other. This guy's a jerk. This guy's a bully. This guy's sad. This guy's pissed. His family's upset. He's getting a divorce. His kids won't talk to him. His kids are on drugs. I mean, it's like everybody's got personal problems. If you just try to ignore all that and sweep it on the rug and run your business, it's never going to work, man. We're all human beings. The problem is that all of our systems are kind of rising out of this serfdom, slavery, sit down, shut up, be a robot and work. And that's not the point of business. The point of business is not only to solve this problem, to make it work right, but to take care of your people, right? To take care of the world.
Well, the village mentality is the problem. People forgot about taking care of the village, and that business is a village, like you said.
Well, that's it. And again, it's just a few leaders, right? It's like, I probably, in this world right now, you could probably take 100 of the top leaders, and those are the guys that are ruining it for the rest of us, right?
Of course they
are.
I mean,
it's not like the majority of humanity is so divided. Everybody I've ever talked to all over the world, we all want the same things, right? We all want to raise our kids, have good, clean, healthy air and water and food and ability and, facility, and not be desperate and worried and all these things. I mean, like I said, we as humanity all want the same thing. So what is the problem? The problem is that we have some bad leaders. We have some people that have been corrupted. We have some people that are clearly not operating on the same core value system as the most of humanity. And that's where the 10 core values in my book come in. If they, like, just take the George Floyd situation in America. There was no way that could have happened if the officers and everybody around there believed that all people were equal and we were going to treat people as we would want to be treated. Those two laws, if they percolated throughout our businesses and our organizations, our the way that we deal with other countries, we would solve most of the problems in the world, because you couldn't do all of this stuff. There's no way you're going to be poisoning that waterway with those kids are going to be drinking. You know what I mean? Those are your kids. I've had discussions with leaders that, some business leaders that got really, really mad at me because I do challenge people. And I've told this story before, but there's like this one guy, owns endless houses all over the world, and they're stuffed with every kind of riches that you can imagine. Like, he's got 15 of the best cars in the world, Ferraris and Lamborghinis and whatever, in every single house. You know what I mean? It's like every house has everything. And I'm like, okay, so that's cool. And I start talking about his life. I'm like, so where are your companies and what do you do and all these kind of things, and get into it. And he's got his companies in the places that are exploiting the hell out of the world, paying people 15 cents an hour or a day, and, dumping everything in the rivers. And, some of the places are in China or in Malaysia or wherever. And I'm like, so if those were your children and that was your neighborhood, would you be treating them that same way? Oh, no. My kids deserve so much better. And I'm like, okay, so why do those, well, those countries, those are their rules. I'm just following their rule. I just went there because it's cheaper. And I'm like, it doesn't make it okay because somebody else allows it to happen, right?
Yeah.
If our businesses, it's like the whole rise of China, Nixon opened up China in the 1930s, and then people are like dogging China. I'm like, you do realize that it's American companies who went over there and making our stuff and they're shipping it back here. It's not like every brand in America is a Chinese brand, right? It's like our Sears brands and all the rest of the American companies are making their stuff in China and bringing it over here. The only reason they did that, and they went, if you look at the history of where we made stuff in the world, it's always like, who can we exploit the most and destroy the environment? And as soon as they start to complain, we just go somewhere else, and then we'll destroy that environment and exploit those people until they get upset, and then we'll go somewhere else. The reason China took off is because they will literally run over their people with tanks, right, to make them not revolt. And they will just.
It's sad how people take care of their own backyard and will go destroy other people's backyards. So,
but the difference is in China, they destroyed their own backyard to get all of this money and this knowledge. It's like, it's so sad because I love China. I love the philosophies that, I mean, a lot of the philosophies, the core philosophies in the world come from like Lao Tzu in China, and Confucius and whatnot. So we, as humanity, I mean, China is a wonderful place. It's just they're under that same idea that's happened throughout all the kings and queens of the world, to where it's like our group, we know everybody else is wrong and we need to control them. And I think that I've studied enough of China to know I get the idea. It's China, you know, the wall, the whole thing, and it's a wonderful country, but exploitation and degradation of people in our society and has happened throughout time. It doesn't make you right. And if you can't take people complaining and talking about it to make it right, you're never going to fix it. You know what I mean? It's like we can't, America's wrong. We're wrong too. You know what I mean? Everybody's wrong. We have wrongness in our society. We have got to fix it. It's not about the communism is right. No, any type of dictatorship where your group over the people is wrong, because there's no way that you can, how do I say this? It's like the whole idea of groupthink, right? If your leaders are telling you one thing and you grow up learning that, that's how we learn, right? We believe what our authority figures tell us, whether it be our parents, our newscasters, our political leaders. But it's our group that our parents, that our first caregivers tell us to look at as the leaders that we usually go to. So in China, if there's only one group of leaders, there's a huge group think going on, right? Especially if you give so much ultimate power to one person. I would think that the idea, if you read Marx and the idea back then, before they understood what communism really was, and is that he's just so idealistic, right? He's thinking, oh yeah, we'll share and everybody will be great. And it's the same fallacy in religion where the Pope is, you know, going to do all good and he's infallible. The problem is that with communism is that we could be corrupted. And the problem is that if you look at throughout time, the way history works is that every leader that comes after keeps adding on to the problem until it becomes like everybody, we have to have a revolt now. You know what I mean? And it just becomes too oppressive, or we're led by some future leader that's a jerk, to be on like some crazy king, right? It's like, oh no, my son's insane, but he gets to rule everybody because of his blood. It's like, dude, this other guy is so much better.
Sounds like you're talking about North Korea and places like that.
Well, yeah, no. In North Korea, it's like, I don't know. Anyway, I feel sorry for all of these countries. I don't know. It doesn't have to be this way. Okay, we don't have to be so violent in war and hatred and superiority and all this sickness,
and live in fancy glass houses, and you know your people are starving to death like they do in Russia, like they do in China, But anyway, I want to go on to a different, because we're getting toward the end of our second part of this series. And I want to talk about this. So this is very important. So Andrew, you're the creator of the Seventh Foundation and One Movement and best-selling author of The Way, 7 Revolutionary Steps to Living a Meaningful Life and Making a Real Difference in the World. Can you tell me what the journey was like to create the foundation and then write a book about it? Was it a struggle to write it, or did you find it flowed easily for you?
Well, being a dyslexic, when I write, it's like it comes out insane. Everything's backwards, misspelled. I mean, not only is the sentence structure backwards, I use the wrong words, but the whole paragraph structure, everything. So I'm not a writer guy. You know what I mean? What's interesting is that I'll tell a quick story. A bunch of publishers looked at my book. A bunch of them met behind the scenes, and then they told me about their meeting, and they were like, they've never seen a book like this before. They said, most books they're like regurgitations of Covey or Robbins or, Deepak or whoever, and they're just segments, right? This is a whole new thing. He said, we've never seen anything written this way. We've never seen the philosophy like this. And they, some of them were just like, we can't publish it because it's too weird. And other ones were like, no, this may be the way people write.
They wanted you to conform.
Yeah, well, some of them did. And I did conform in the sense that the very first chapter has more of a story, a little bit about my life in it. The rest of the book isn't. When I first gave this book to the publisher, the very first chapter was probably 6 or 7 paragraphs, and it had nothing really to do about me. It was really just setting up the idea between success and true success. So I had to elaborate in that because I would have released this book, honestly, as anonymous. I didn't want to make this about me. And it's not about me. This is about this message and about humanity, about our oneness. You know, when we look at any type of structure, we always see a pyramid. You know, the guy at the top's the most powerful, everybody down at the bottom's the most peon. That's such a wrong way of looking at it. You need to look at it, like the bottom of it is all the foundation of the whole business, and you at the top are riding on all of that foundation. But really, any organization is really more like an engine. And any car guys out there will get this. The smallest piece can take down your engine. You know, a $2 gasket or whatever can ruin your engine as much as the whole carburetor going bad. So the idea here is that when I'm doing this, I'm just a cog in the wheel like the rest of us. So just want to make that clear. The way has been something I've been working on for over 30 years. The idea of the foundation, the one movement, I have 7 systems that God showed me I need to build in my life. And I don't know, I may run out of time. The things that I've been shown that I need to do are so unbelievably huge. I don't know if I could do it. Just writing this book, like I said, if you really have severe dyslexia and learning disabilities, and when you write, like I said, it comes out as insanity. I mean, every word is misspelled. It's all backwards. I had to go through every single word over and over and over. I mean, for years, and it's still wrong. Like I would literally use, like, I think in the 10 laws, right until it was published, there was a word misspelled. It was the right word spelled correctly, but it was the wrong one. You know what I mean? I can't remember. Like you can use, there's certain words that sound the same, but they're they're 2 different spellings to different words or whatever. I do that a lot because I use spell check and I can't tell necessarily.
Well, that's why I wanted to bring it up, because
so it's really, really difficult.
It fascinates me, and people need to understand that when your passion and purpose unite, you'll get over anything to accomplish and serve others. And you prove that.
Well, it's also, I lost relationships. So I've had girlfriends where, it's like they want to spend time. And I'm like, I have to write. And it's like this, for me, it was like a compulsion to some degree. And again, I have some learning disabilities that make me get really into stuff, and it's really hard for me to let it go. But that is also a benefit when it comes to some of this stuff, but it makes it hard in relationships.
Well, you're a fantastic communicator, by the way.
Well, thank you. They said when they analyzed my brain, I have a larger communication center in my brain. My brain isn't quite structured the same way. I spoke really early, and I always used words that were way beyond my years when I was little. And they were like, this kid can't write, he can't read, but for some reason he's, using these words. My parents would always like, what did you just say? What does that word mean? Well, I guess he understands it, So, like I said, some of us with these disabilities, we have gifts. And for me, though, it's like I could have spent my life doing so many things. I mean, I have businesses, I have Consulting Ace, I've got so many business ideas. But while all this was going on, it was really just to support myself so I could do all this research and figure out these greater problems. Because I don't know if you've ever done this, it's like a puzzle. You know that there's an answer here. If you just put it together in the right way, you can see the picture. And I had so many glimpses of what I was like. I don't know, like when you have these visions, you see the final product, but you can't see the steps to get there from here to there. And it's like my mind was like, how do I put all these pieces together to get to that point to where we can create this better society, or how you can master your life and all these different aspects so people don't have to live in such confusion and such horror and all the rest of it. We can just get on the same page and then fix this world. It seriously does not have to be this way. It is not as hard as we're making it out to be. We have a few leaders that are making it seem that way because, one, they're confused. And 2, they want it this way because it allows them to gain more power, wealth, and fame by dividing us, because they can, get us pissed off and, doing things for them and whatnot. And that's been the same way throughout all of human history. And if I want to share anything before we go, is that there's hope. What I found hasn't been seen before. I may be a decent communicator, but I haven't figured out quite how to explain all of this yet, but I will get there. The One Movement and Party literally is just a page on my website right now you can sign up with. We're developing it as we go forward. I'm the kind of person that would rather start something when it's not ready. You know what I mean? Like if you tell me something's due 2 years from now, I'm going to start it tomorrow. I'm going to, make a page and start taking notes, and I'll work out it over time, than waiting, 5 days before 2 years shows up and then try to do all that work. They always say that, like, start early and finish late. It's like you get your mind going. My mind is the one that works where I'll have epiphanies like tomorrow I'll realize things I should have said during this show, or, you know what I mean? It's like 3 years from now, I have more ideas. So I try to put them all in there. Anyway.
Speaking of that, and in case there is that idea you wanted to share, if you had to give our listeners one last closing message, what would you tell them in regards to giving a heck and never giving up?
I would say that I know that you do give a heck. All of us wants the same things. You want to have a great life, have a great life for your kids, have a wonderful world. The way that we can do this is if we unite correctly. We need to get on the same page when it comes to the fundamental basics and fundamental ideas of what it is to be human in our society. And then we need a way that we can join together. So we can get the knowledge within the way, we can join together within the one movement and party to make this stuff happen. This isn't about me, this is about all of us. There's going to be many leaders that are going to join this. It's not about you stopping what you're doing, it's about you joining with other people and continuing to do what you're doing while you integrate these other ideas. So I think the biggest message is there is hope. We all want the same things. We can do this. This is the only time in human history that we've ever been this connected, or so many of us, because of this pandemic, have been so awake to the wrongness in the world. This inequality, everything that we have in our society can be fixed very easily because we're all human and we can change, and we are so amazing as beings. I mean, just look at the world that we have created. As messed up as it is, it's pretty incredible how far we've come. And just in the last 30, 40 years, in a lot of ways, we've come further than we have in thousands of years in our understanding of equality and treating people right and respecting life and all the other basics of the world. So now it's just a matter of us kind of all joining together, not giving up your individuality, but to join together in your individuality, in this diversity, and enjoy it, and then use it to our benefit, because it's like we don't want everything to be the same. We need everybody to join, because it's your idea of this solution and her idea and his idea join together that really make the full solution. So, I mean, we are the greatest power united as humanity. We can change everything for the better right now. So I guess there's hope, and please join me. Go to my website. Help me help you.
I'll make sure to put into the show notes, which the listeners can access at giveaheck.com. I'll make sure that in the show notes that I have your link to your website and all your social media.
Can I say that right now?
Sure.
Just quickly.
Go ahead.
It's 7way.me. That's the number 7, WAY.me. And you can think about it like the 7 steps in the way. So it's 7way and then .me. So you can say it like a command, 7way me. So you're getting all this good stuff in the way within you. That's an easy way to remember it.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And yes, and if there's anything else you'd like to share, one last thought before we end, go ahead.
I just want to say God bless everybody. Thank you for being here. And hopefully we'll get to know each other and make these changes soon.
Well, I appreciate you, Andrew. Thanks so much. It's been a great conversation. I really enjoyed learning.
I know, I'm sorry it's ending.
You.
I feel like we've talked forever.
Let's
do another show.
Yeah, we eventually will. So
All right.
Thanks so much for being on Give a Heck, Andrew. I appreciate your time and sharing some of your experiences so that others too can learn it is never too late to give a heck.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.